Thank you very much. We are truly honored to have with us today Major General Richard Simcock II, who flew in here from Okinawa to deliver today's keynote message. As a general officer, his assignments include legislative assistant to the Commandant, Headquarters, U.S. Marine Corps, Principal Director, Asia and Pacific Affairs, Office of the Secretary of Defense, Deputy Commanding General, U.S. Marine Corps Forces Pacific, Commanding General, 2nd Marine Expeditionary Brigade, Deputy Commanding General, 2nd Marine Expeditionary Forces. Major General Simcock has spent a great portion of his career in the Western Pacific. He is well versed in the political and military affairs of East Asia and understands the U.S.-Japan Security Alliance and basing issues in Japan and Okinawa. Major General Simcock is currently serving as Commanding General, 3rd Marine Division in Okinawa. Please welcome Major General Simcock II.
Steve, thank you very much for that introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, first off, konnichiwa and aloha. Let me, if I can, before I start my prepared remarks, can I introduce my Sergeant Major, Sergeant Major Vince Santiago. Sergeant Major, I can't see you. There you are. Okay. So Sergeant Major is my battle buddy. I don't travel anywhere without him. So Sergeant Major and I go back a long ways. We first served together 25 years ago, 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines at Camp Pendleton. And as Steve said, we came from Okinawa, but we came in the venue through Guam. And we were at Guam for the 72nd anniversary of the liberation of Guam. And for the legacy of 3rd Marine Division, very, very important. Very important for Sergeant Major Santiago. Sergeant Major Santiago is Guamanian and born and raised there. And I, born and raised in a town just south of San Francisco. We are both from the Pacific region. Granted, 6,000 miles apart, but we were both born and raised in the Pacific region. And I think it's indicative of the diversity and what the vastness of the Asia-Pacific region. I think that's critically important, and I ask that you keep that in mind today as we have our discussions. If I can start out and say good afternoon again. On behalf of Admiral Harris, who's unfortunately unable to be with us, I am Major General Richard Simcock, and I am the Commanding General of 3rd Marine Division. As you heard, I previously served in a variety of billets throughout Asia Pacific. And if it wasn't for September 11th and the responsibilities that took me to Iraq and Afghanistan, most of my career has been spent here in Asia Pacific. And I feel very fortunate by that. I love this region. And I hope to stay here as long as the Commandant and President will leave me out here. I'm very honored to represent the more than 379,000 Marines, sailors, airmen, and soldiers stationed throughout the region in this open forum, as all sides taking part in the ongoing discussions are present today. I want to especially thank the East-West Center, Worldwide Uchinanchu Business Network, and the Aki Samiao Club for hosting this forum to keep these discussions open and active. As leaders in our respective fields, I think it's incumbent upon us to engage in these types of settings frequently to inform and, more importantly, to educate one another. In its 6th iteration, the Okinawa Talk Story seeks to broaden our community's understanding of the background, current trends, and future developments throughout the Indo-Asia Pacific region. Today we'll do just that. We'll talk about the past, we'll talk about the present, and we'll talk about the future. With that chronological lens, I'd like to discuss 3 topics with you here today, and how those topics relate to the region. First, proximity, and enduring relationships, and lastly, integration. I can start out my comments with a story, taking you back a little bit, not very far. It was on Thursday, April 14th, at 2:26 in the morning. Here in Hawaii, on Aloha evening, Gracie Island, as its inhabitants rested safely and soundly, unbeknownst to the 6.2 magnitude earthquake that jolted family and friends back at home in Japan. And as science shows, there's always a precursor to the main shock. 28 hours later, in the darkest hours of night, a 7.0 magnitude earthquake struck Kumamoto City in southwest Japan. The natural tragedy that befell this otherwise quiet and beautiful countryside reached far beyond the isolated island prefecture. Within hours, U.S. Forces Japan reached out to the government of Japan, offering the combined capabilities of its forces located throughout the region. In the aftermath of the nighttime shock, Japan had to first assess the damage and then diagnose what is needed most. On April 18th, the Japanese government accepted the offer of U.S. airlift support in the form of 8 MV-22 Ospreys, 1 Air Force C-130 plane, and 1 Army UC-35 helicopter. Within 7 hours, 4 Osprey flew from Manila, Philippines to Iwakuni Air Station in Yamaguchi to gather fuel and supplies. Within 24 hours, those Osprey were on the ground in Kumamoto to assist Japanese ground self-defense forces in delivering resupplies to the disaster victims. Throughout the following week of U.S. airlift support, approximately 230,000 pounds of relief supplies were delivered. Over a third, about 83,000 pounds, of which were delivered by the Ospreys responding from the Philippines. In addition to delivering supplies, U.S. airlift transported more than 50 Japanese self-defense force personnel to those affected areas. Time and distance matters in a crisis. The difference in hours versus days equates to lives saved. This was proven again in 2013 during Operation Damian when Super Typhoon Haiyan made landfall in the Philippines. Within 4 hours, Ospreys departed from Marine Corps Air Station Fatema in Okinawa, arrived to support the humanitarian assistance and disaster relief operations. The MV-22s evacuated more than 1,200 people while delivering more than 20 tons of supplies to remote areas where traditional airplanes and helicopters could not reach. 2 years prior, in March 2011, a 9.0 magnitude earthquake triggered a massive tsunami that swept the coast of Japan. Operation Tomodachi kicked off immediately as U.S. forces stationed throughout Japan worked alongside Japanese ground self-defense forces to save lives and rebuild Japan. Nowhere else in such a rapid and comprehensive response is it possible than from Okinawa. While representing one of the smallest fractions of space in the Indo-Asia Pacific, Okinawa's size belays its vital importance to this region. This theater encompasses more than half the world's surface area, 61% of its population. It is home to the 3 largest and 5 smallest world economies. 40% of the world's trade transits through its waters. It contains the most populous nation in China, the largest democracy in India, and the largest Muslim majority nation in Indonesia. The diversity of culture, religion, economy, and diplomacy is unparalleled in any other region. This dichotomy of free thought and policies, however, presents an inherent challenge when certain countries do not share common interests. History is rife with examples of unilateral strategies employed between nations contending for prominence in the Pacific region. The ongoing activity in the South China Sea is a daily reminder of this struggle for significance and a clear indication to all parties watching that forward deployed forces are a priority in the Pacific region. Current events are all too frequently tell the story of rogue elements that threaten to disrupt our common values of security, stability, and prosperity. The continued pursuit of nuclear capabilities in North Korea and the irresponsible brandishing of this potential power is one such example. And lastly, It is not a question of if, but when the arbitrary forces of Mother Nature will choose to reshape our landscape. Okinawa's proximity to these unpredictable forces is paramount when measured in minutes and miles. Home to approximately 30,000 U.S. Marine sailors, soldiers, and airmen, the forward deployed forces here demonstrate a shared commitment between our two governments, to each other and to the region. We're here to maintain our bilateral security treaty, which has kept peace in this region for over 70 years. If and when Japan is threatened, we too are threatened, and we will defend the country with a shared resolve against any aggressor. If you were to ask any service member in Okinawa, why are you here and what's your mission? They would likely answer you, to fight tonight and to win. As good stewards of the Treaty of Mutual Cooperation and Security, it is our duty to be ready for that fight. We have a saying in the Marine Corps, train as you fight, which sounds simple enough, but due to the ever-ending changing nature of warfare, it can be very, very challenging. Over the past 15 years, the battlefield has evolved. What was once a force-on-force land-based campaign in the Middle East has evolved into an asymmetric warfare at sea and in the air. The time and location of the next conflict are unknown. However, we must always be ready. Okinawa enables our forces to be forward, faithful, and focused. Our forward presence nullifies the tyranny of distance. The U.S. is an active and reliable ally equipped to defend and protect Japan. Additionally, it provides access to unique and exotic training environments where we hone our combined readiness alongside the Japanese Self-Defense Force. For over 50 years, our faithful alliance has been the foundation of peace and security in the Indo-Asian Pacific region, and it has been the cornerstone of U.S. engagement throughout this theater. As I discussed, Okinawa's strategic location expedites our focused response to natural disasters and rogue forces. The disposition and placement of U.S. forces must match that of the evolving threats in this region. Of those 30,000 uniformed service members in Okinawa, about 18,000 of them are U.S. Marines. On any given day, those forces, approximately 6,000, are off island, training with partners and allies across basically 20 different countries. Regardless of where we're located, what's important is that our total force is organized and able to train and deploy together at a moment's notice. And this requires a permanent basing, which is what I've been asked to talk about here today. Our future proximity in Okinawa is changing as part of the Defense Policy Review Initiative. Approved by our two governments in 2006, DPRI will achieve a force posture that is geographically distributed, operationally resilient, and politically sustainable. The plan has already relocated our KC-130 squadron from Fatema to Iwakuni in 2014. It will ultimately reduce the total number of Marines that I mentioned, 18,000, to about 10,000. That'll take place over the next several years via relocation of Marines to Guam and also here in Hawaii. It will also enable the return of land to the government of Japan. As I mentioned last week, the Sergeant Major and I visited Guam, where construction is already underway for brand new facilities, camps, barracks, and ranges that are paid for by both the Japanese and U.S. governments. While reducing the number of Marines in Okinawa, the greater benefit to developing Guam is as a strategic hub that it provides for shared use between the United States and Japanese forces. Additionally, it better positions our forces to respond more rapidly to a broader range of challenges and contingencies across this vast region. Other significant preparations are ongoing to reduce the footprint of U.S. forces on Okinawa as well. In 1996, the Special Action Committee on Okinawa, or SACO, agreement was made to return almost 10,000 acres of the northern training area to the government of Japan. This land, which we are ready to give back now, would mark the largest land return since 1972. It's pretty significant. All that is required is 6 landing zones to be built, 2 of which are already complete. Construction of the Fatima replacement facility at Camp Schwab is a critical step towards realizing our shared vision of realignment of U.S. forces on island and the long-desired return of Marine Corps Air Station Fatima to Japan. Both the United States and the Japanese governments remain committed to implementing this relocation to Hanoka Bay. It is the only viable solution that addresses operational, political, financial, and strategic concerns. The relocation will significantly reduce the U.S. footprint in the area while sustaining U.S. military capabilities vital to peace and security of the region. What is crucial to remember when discussing these base developments on Okinawa is what the world is watching. Remember those elements struggling for significance and contending for prominence. They are watching closely, and they know what our mission is here in Okinawa. It is in the greater Asia-Pacific region where Fight Tonight and Wind is being watched. And I will say to you that in simple Simcockese, I've seen this movie before. The movie has a very happy ending, but the middle of the movie is very difficult to watch. And I think, again, it's incumbent upon us to take the actions to prevent the errors of the past from happening again here in the present or in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been a Marine for 33 years, and I've been married to the same woman my wife married for 32. What I've learned from both wearing a uniform and a wedding ring is that relationships take a lot of work. The best days can be followed by the most challenging times in a relationship. The key to not only surviving but flourishing together is faith in one another and renewed commitment in the face of adversity. 71 years ago, the relationship between Japan and the United States was one of discord. The annals of history tell the storied and challenging narrative between our two nations across many fronts. If you travel throughout the region as much as I do, it is hard to deny the remnants of our past when visiting some of the very sites where we engaged in battle. Last March, I attended the reunion of honor ceremony commemorating what has happened, but we cannot allow this to drive a wedge between our relationship. On Okinawa, we are part of you. After 71 years, we are part of that island. We are your neighbors. We live in your villages. We shop at your stores. You come to our homes. We go to yours. We are the best when we work together. And as generations before us have shown, both actions and words, we must rise above hardship together. Our relationship today is evolving and enduring. We depend on each other, and the greater region depends on us. Our partners and allies look at more than 50 years of U.S.-Japanese alliance as the symbol of strength and resolve. They see promise in the future of our alliance, knowing our bond is battle-tested and unbreakable. Together we will realize in the Indo-Asia Pacific, in which all countries cooperate to advance our common interests to protect human rights, deter conflict, and maintain peace. Today, the U.S.-Japanese alliance is at its strongest. Tomorrow, it will be stronger. It advances each and every day thanks to continued dedication by both countries to ensure compatibility. Recall the adage that I just mentioned, train as you fight. This was tested most recently during the Kumamoto relief efforts. Thanks to more than 80 annual bilateral exchanges between our militaries, the seamless transition from disaster to initial response and ultimate recovery between forces made a difference in the matter of lives saved and the homes salvaged. More recently, our forces trained together regularly, simulating earthquake and typhoon scenarios so that their execution is efficient and agile. These exchanges span beyond the gates of our bases and into our rural community of Okinawa. On average, 85 community relations events are occurring each week within our neighborhoods, schools, and churches. Japanese and American Boy Scouts are sharing a love for the outdoors, while doctors and nurses are exchanging best practices for patient care in each other's hospitals. We are part of the fabric of this community. The current integration of our forces has shown that we are best when we are together. Whether in the air, on the land, or out at sea, our forces are working side by side to strengthen each other and our alliance. I'm a firm believer that the most effective military forces are those that live, work, and train and operate together. While we are not quite there yet, we've made great progress in that direction. In the air, Japanese pilots have observed the tactics, techniques, and procedures of our MV-22 Osprey. On the land, our chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear defense teams have drilled endlessly to simulate unforeseen scenarios. Out at sea, amphibious reconnaissance and beach landings keep our forces formidable and adaptive. Looking forward in time, the development of joint use ranges and facilities funded by both our governments in Guam will hone our combined readiness to a wide range of contingencies in the region. The Jungle Warfare Training Center at Camp Gonzalez in northern Okinawa will soon enlist the experience of Japanese Ground Self-Defense Force cadre to train Marines in their knowledge of the challenging and thick terrain. And last, the mentorship between our naval forces and development of a Japanese Rapid Deployment Brigade has already begun with small boat and amphibious assault vehicle operations and subject matter exchanges. This is an exciting future for our forces, as each nation is eager to learn and share at all levels of leadership. In closing, I'd like to thank the other speakers for providing our thought and engaging and in also exchanging the opinions. I'll share one last lesson with you from my years of marriage to both Mary and the Marine Corps. Without two-way communication, there is no relationship. So I challenge you. I challenge you all to continue these discussions after we leave here today. And as you do so, in the context of Okinawa, remember the three topics that we discussed here today: proximity, enduring relations, and integration. Mahalo, and thank you very much.
The other side things the other, and pretty soon everybody's wrong, and we have to give up our fear for a better future. And
forum today. I sincerely hope the